Hello, everybody, and welcome, Dean Cuddy. What? Dean Cuddy?
Oh,
What
it's
is
a Dean.
What is Dean Cuddy doing here? We don't need him. Someone. Oh no!
I bet he's just here to be like, "Hey guys, have you heard about my new album?" in chat.
Oh jeez.
Shameless.
Dean's the guy that shows up to like a party with a acoustic guitar. Like, I have so many feelings. I can feel so many things. He's such a Chad. Dean, he's such a Chad. But he's like a really tall Chad too, so you can't make fun of him too much because if you do, then like
he'll sit on you.
Yeah, or like he'll hit you and you can't do anything because his arms are too long. So he'll come at you and do like the whole hand to the forehead. Dean,
Except
how tall are
it's
you?
not like that because it takes like 20 seconds for his long, snaky rope arm to make it to you. You're like, what's going on?
Well, he's like 3 meters tall or something like that, isn't he? Like he's like 4 meters tall. Something. He's like this massive.
He's
I think
tall
he's
as
like-
my character.
I think he's like 5 meters tall. Yeah, that's what I heard actually.
I heard he like looks down on Hagrid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
So
Hagrid
you're
was actually
saying-
inspired by Dean Cuddy. But you know, if Dean Cuddy could grow hair, because you know, all right.
I don't worry about it, Dean. Some people can't grow facial hair. Obviously, everyone here can, but you can't.
Oh, yeah.
So some people can.
Oh.
It's the beard string.
So yeah, we legit start this session with making fun of Dean Cuddy. Welcome everybody. All right, so this session's gonna be a little bit different than our typical ones because there's gonna be a lot of meta in this session. It's our first time doing the kingdom rules. These boys have had 0 lessons in how to do the kingdom rules. I actually did that intentionally because I wanted to make sure that everybody kind of like learns this together. I don't fully understand them. I've read them 3 times, but until you do them, you don't really know them. You know what I mean? So we're gonna be flubbing through this. There's gonna be a lot of like kind of going back and forth, a lot of questions, but we can all kind of like learn it together, which is gonna be fun. I've done kingdom building campaigns many times in my past, but never used the Pathfinder Kingmaker rule set before, right? So I guess let's kind of like get back into where we were last time. So we're gonna like retrace our steps for a few moments before we actually get into that mechanical part. Last session, you guys had to fight, and win. You just barely... Neil, did you catch that entire stream? I think you did, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So you guys had just barely, I mean like by like a hair's breadth, just barely got rid of those 2 devils, which is hilarious. I honestly thought you were going to take the approach of, well, problem for a different day.
Then we got that extremely lucky. Thank you, Josh. Dispel magic scroll, and it all fell into place.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how you got that scroll that came in from the random rolls from the patrons beforehand, and then you already had the other scroll from the random rolls, so, and then the dice just rolled in your favor. And it's funny because like somebody in one of my chat rooms was questioning the validity of one of the. And I was like, listen, you literally saw every roll pertaining to those devils rolled out in front of you, except for one roll. As for the likelihood of that roll succeeding, top of my head, I think it was a DC 14 or 15 will save. And they have a +7 to their saving throw. Which means they had to roll a 7 or 8. I can't remember which one it is. So is that impossible? No. That's like a 30% chance of failure. 30% is still a... You know what I mean? They said that Trump had like a 20% chance of not, getting office, and hey, look at that.
When you say it needs to roll under 7 or 8, you're like, oh, but then you say it's 30%, and it's, that sounds a little better.
Yeah. So I mean, the likelihood was there of failing. So I was just like, hey, you saw every roll except for one. Moving on. So it was a lot of fun.
You saw the 30% chance for it to summon another one, and I rolled, so it did.
Yeah. which is pretty funny. So anyways, that problem was solved, which is hilarious. You left there, split up. You stayed with the tree one. It's funny actually. You happened to roll very well on the tree one. I was going to
a lot of fight.
I was going to ruin your day with that one. Like, oh, you think the curse is going to go that easily? And you're like, yeah. And then you rolled well, and I was like, oh.
I was so worried you were going to pull that as well. I was just like, it made sense that I was the one to stay there, but I'm like, this is bad.
Because you had literally the curse in your hands. And I was like,
But I learned from this, and now I have burning hands.
That's true. That's true. For the level up, which we're gonna roll for that in a minute. So you went there. There was a bit of a fight, but because you happened to roll very well, you actually were able to break the curse there. Jake had the best job. He had to turn some wheels, and then it was all done. So that was easy. And then lastly, Neil, you actually had to make a will save to literally overcome the ego of this sword. It was fun because had you horribly failed that save, I was going to have a fun discussion with you. A lot of people, I imagine, never played the game Saga Frontier. It's one of my favorite PlayStation games as a kid growing up. I always liked the idea of dual personalities, and that at one point in time, you don't realize it, but at one point in time you realize it's like a mirror of yourself. And if this one wins, you are now the same person with this personality. But if this one wins, you're now the same person with a different personality. And it's fun because you actually crushed it. I think you got like a 30 or a 31.
Yeah.
Like you destroyed that saving throw. So you easily maintained your personality. It was a great job. So cool. That's actually the moment that I need to get back to. Because at one point in time, I had said last session that you had taken the sword and you had broken the curse. And you had literally shattered the blade in your mind. And then you had to decide. Do you want to shatter the blade in your hands, or do you want to reforge that blade in your mind? And it's literally your decision as the PC. Do you want to have the shattered blade reformed in your mind, or take this thing and it'll never bother anybody ever again and just completely destroy it physically?
I think I'm going to shatter it in time. No. I'd reform it.
Doesn't bother me. So then,
this is an adventurer speaking.
Because of the fact that you're reforming the blade in your mind, a fun feature about that is it literally, as it reforms in your mind, before I had to describe this blade a bunch of times, there's angles like you've never seen before, it's strangely thin and yet graceful, and all that fun stuff. We described that many times when we talked about Tesh's images of the past, and when you actually saw the blade. Because you're grabbing this blade now, you're shattering it in your mind, you're reforming it in your mind, you're also reforming it in your image. I'd like you to do me a favor. Describe the process in your mind. Only your character's mind's eye can see this. Describe the process of the reforming in your mind. And then for Jake's character, one, who's literally in the room, describe what he sees and how he sees the blade reforming in your hand.
So rather than like your description of the blade actually shattering in his mind, in Rayron's mind, he sees this object, this vessel for the curse, and rather than it like the blade just shattering, slowly bits of color appear on the blade that equate to the curse. And slowly, in Rayron's mind, these bits of color coalesce until there's like a bright point on the blade, midway up the blade. And then there's just a tiny crack appears, and all of this light just channels out. And in Rayron's mind, and then the blade is in front of him. So what you would see is he's obviously holding this blade, and then you see this, it's in its scabbard, and you see this faintest like glow begin to appear from like the very top of the scabbard from the blade, and then it begins to build and build and build and build, and just when you think it can't get any brighter, it's gone entirely, and Rayron like unsheaths the blade slightly, and you see the colors totally different, and there's one tiny crack just running down the length of the blade. It doesn't look like a crack, it looks like a scratch.
Describe what the blade looks like, because like the curvature or the angles, the length, we want to know how big and wide you are, boy.
What type of blade is it?
It would be most akin to a what we would consider a katana. It's not like a 1-for-1 copy, but it follows the same. It's thin, lighter blade with one cutting edge. It's curved towards the end. It's capable. It narrows down to a point. It's capable of piercing a foe. The handle is long enough to grip with two hands. However, it doesn't have the traditional, the suba the hilt, the handguard. It doesn't have that at all. You seem to remember it did have that before, but it disappeared at some point in the light. So it's very similar to what it was. It's just the same, but different.
But the same, but different.
One would have looked over you and said, did you do that?
Rarian still looks a bit shell-shocked, and he's like, yes, I just took the curse out of the blade rather than breaking the blade with the curse. Just seemed like the easier option, really.
He just looked at it and would have been like, would have thought you would have went with something bigger.
Yes, well, not all of us need to compensate. He glances at your big battle axe.
He would nod, give you a little chuckle, and that would be the end of it. He doesn't have a comeback for that one.
The blade is quite long. It's probably like although it's not super long, it's maybe what, like, I don't know,
7 meters.
160 centimeters,
blade.
something like that.
Fucking hell, that's big.
What
It's
did you
not
say?
that. It's not that insanely long because it's curved.
No, it does make sense, yeah.
How
It's
long
like
did you say?
it's like
'Cause I was
it's like a
looking
meter
over
and a half in length.
Meter and a half. Okay, gotcha. All right.
So
Yeah.
it's clearly a weapon that is happy to be two-handed as well as one-handed because it's light, relatively speaking.
Cool. So that's kind of like how that thing finished up right there. Now, again, as a reminder, what happened afterwards, you guys, of course, went to your appropriate chambers, your rooms. You're kind of like drawn there. In there was a whole little scenario where you were being spoken to, and then you were kind of like guided. One side was being spoken to, the other side wasn't, where it was kind of guided as the things you had to pull up. So first you went over to a table, and you're like, hey, there's a table of all this little, like a 3D table of all the castles or whatever here, like you'd seen so many times beforehand. You pull up the one that you're in, and you pull up the other one that's over there. You had also seen the table the other. One of you guys had seen the other side was already doing this, so you can see that somebody else was already attempting this for your keep. So you can kind of like be aware if somebody was ever trying to do this. And so they lift up the other side, and because the doors were closed, as you open the door, you imagine, because the room, I've always described it as being kind of like circular, with like a door at the end, right? So it's like almost like a tiny little hallway, a 5-foot deep hallway, that opens up into like a door. Almost imagine it looks kind of like a light bulb with a stubby end. It's supposed to be like a long end at the end of the bulb, right? When the door opens up, you more or less have like a 10 by 10 square, right? Because you have 5 feet into the room over here, 10 feet wide, 5 feet into the room over here, 10 feet wide, that opens up into like a bulb. So almost makes like a dumbbell like look as the two rooms are connected, extra dimensionally connected with one another. So you guys can actually walk back and forth, shake hands, be between the two. But as soon as you shut the doors, the thing closes, and then you open it up and you're back in your own keep. So it's like an instant transportation between two locations. However, what was explained to you by the NPC at the time was that both these keeps, the only way that this could ever work is if both keeps are flying under the same banner. So you can't just like randomly be in two keeps and have this happen. The only reason why he was able to make this happen for you is because he was acting as the banner between the two keeps. You had chosen to go to return to the keep of where the tree had grown from. So it's the one in like Central Adir, where the massive cursed tree was, and technically one of the vines still are, the assassin vines. You just chose to go back there to kind of like reunite with one another. You of course brought what's his name with you, Elliot's with you, and you also had
He was with me already, yeah.
Yep, and you also had Dwayne with you.
Yeah, he left him in.
He's back in the city.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You didn't bring Dwayne with you.
Because we like teleported there, so
Correct.
And he wasn't there with us.
He knows where the money is. We know where he'll come.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. And it's not like people aren't going to hear of your keep, whatever. So you're fine. And I don't think your character's the kind of people that screw him over anyways. I don't think he thinks that either. So it's not a big concern. So moving on.
We're screwing him over. Just put it out there. We're screwing Dwayne. Bye, Dwayne.
No, bad idea.
If by screwing Dwayne you mean Zip, maybe he's into it. So anyways,
I'm pretty sure he is from what happened last session. I mean,
That's a good point.
I could feel the tension from over here. Oh, you better take your clothes off. Whew.
As a reminder, in your own individual areas, kind of appearing before you simultaneously, originally was the martyr herself. She appeared before you and was more or less like, "Thank you for freeing me. What you have done here, blah 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 blah." And she actually elevated from, because you can feel her power grow. She actually literally elevated in that your actions from being a demigod to being a lesser deity. So there's literally divine elevation that happened there, which means she's no longer a divine power of this country. She's now a divine power of this continent. So instead of the country with a little bleed over, it's this continent with a little bleed over. It's a pretty huge jump for a god. So yay there. Then you also met another character. The old man appeared before you, as I said beforehand, but not old anymore. Significantly younger than he was beforehand. I no longer have to RP him like this.
Yay, I'll be able to understand you now.
He appeared before you, and because Neil wasn't here for the conversation last time, we can kind of rehash that conversation to make sure things have gone over. So as like a quick little reminder, he initially kind of like stepped before you and was like, kudos, you succeeded. You released the martyr. You've lifted the curse and therefore released the martyr. However, you've also released something else. He's like, you've released me. And for that, I am grateful. And so we're going to kind of like pick up the RP here as though we had left it off like last time.
I feel like he's a secret evil guy.
So he says, you
Remember,
released...
he was willing to sacrifice himself to let us escape that place.
So he's like,
we nearly lost him.
You've released me, and for that, I am incredibly grateful. So, I suppose we need to figure out what it is that we're going to do forward, with the curse of Adia finally being lifted, the curse of the Perrin finally being removed. I think there's a reward that needs to be given to the three of you. He says, looking at three of you, even though there's clearly four of you in the room. Aw, womp womp, Elliot. So he's like, a reward needs to be given to the three of you. I think as the curse is finally lifted, there can, in fact, be rulers that exist in this land. I would like to give you the opportunity to be that ruler.
Looking at the other two. Yes. Yes.
I think maybe we ought to hear a bit more about what this might entail. I'm not sure it's necessarily appropriate for you to give us power.
Why wouldn't it be appropriate for me to give you power?
Are you a king?
Is there anybody who rules this nation as it stands?
No, but it's
So the power's for the taken, for those that have the courage, the wherewithal, and the balls to grasp it.
I believe this was part of the reason why I was sent to do this, was at least to move this forward. I may have left that bit out.
I'll take the bell.
Share with the class.
I believe that the dream I had, how long ago was it?
About a month actually. No, it's about for your original dream? Sorry, the OG dream was probably like a year ago. But
oh no, sorry, the one that had them in it. The one at the end.
Oh, the one that during your gotcha. That was probably about 2 months ago.
Yeah. So that dream I had about 2 months ago before we met. I believe I told you that I saw you in it, and now I believe, upon looking at it more closely, I think I saw a reference to you in it as well. One. I saw you, Raren, standing there with the blade that you conquered. And it was raining down chains, freshly broken, which I believe is signifying you. One. I believe we were meant to attempt this together.
Have it known that it wasn't me that sent those visions to you. I certainly lacked that power. That was the martyr herself that spoke to you.
I thought as much. Yes, I had been wanting to create a kingdom that had the best parts of the Perrin without the worst parts of the Perrin. I'm sure you know all about the worst parts, Raren.
I think we're both aware of quite a lot of worse parts of Perindel.
True, they have done a lot to. Well, the martyr said to me, at least, when the curse was broken, when she appeared to me, that she can actually go and give that empathy, that mercy to the parent she wasn't able to before, because she couldn't reach beyond this land. So we might see a change in the parent anyway, but that doesn't change the fact that the parent have made a lot of bad decisions, dumb mistakes, and have caused ill will.
Yes.
I believe we could do it better.
Without the martyr, the Perrin lacked a certain degree of compassion in their heart.
That was the wording, yes.
They will find that compassion soon enough. It very well may be their downfall. I suppose only time will tell.
Alternatively, now that the curse is broken, they may simply attempt to invade Adir, which reasonably wouldn't stand any chance. No organization, no leaders, no army.
I think you'll realize. Sorry, I think you'll realize that the people of Adir have grown accustomed to the Perrin not being here. They're also strong-minded. An invading force, I don't think they would stand too kindly for that. People that had no reason to stand arm in arm before would very likely do so in that scenario. And nobody knows the lands of Adir better than the people that live here. And it certainly is a place where you can hide and attack from the shadows. A place where the Perrin have almost no knowledge. Every lands that they attack, every lands that they take over, and I don't know this because I understand history. I know this because I'm newly brought back into this timeline. I know this because I know the Perrin as well as anyone else, being one of them myself. We integrate, we learn. We learn of the society, the people, the lands, and then we take. They wouldn't be able to do that here. They weren't welcome here.
Very well.
We should keep it that way.
Really have anywhere else to go. As our friend here, he glances at Elliot with like a sour look, has pointed out, some might consider me a deserter back what once was home. My family certainly won't care. I appear to have made some friends along the way here, so perhaps it would be worth sticking it out. At least my other friends died for something there, I suppose. What would this entail?
Well, you have all the wonderful leisures that come with ruling your own land. Subjects that will harvest the grain that you eat. Soldiers that'll fight the wars that you wage. And everything else that, of course, crown, country, kingdom would bring to you. However, that also entails responsibility, pressures, both political and, well, mortal. It's a kingdom. Small, but I see ambition, he says, kind of like lingering his eyes across the three of you.
I believe that if we do it together, we each can lean on each other's strengths in specific areas. I think it could work quite well.
I agree. One, you've been mostly silent on the issue.
I like what I hear.
My thoughts are, as I know, one, you're quite particular about your faith. And I am obviously quite particular about mine now. We could form a union in the sense that we have multiple gods worshipped here, but specifically ours. And do you have a god you worship? Turning to Rayron.
Rayron shrugs. Whatever is pragmatic.
Well, I guess we can figure that out. The best one to complement.
In the
Malta.
nation of Malta, there is no set god. And remember, a lot of it's done by the by like the groups of gods, the Idiopans. But if there was one particular god that they kind of venerate above the others, it would be specifically Winifred Arenda, who is the lady of glyphs, the scribe. You know what I mean? Like, it's about written knowledge and whatnot. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Tesh.
I was just we could have 3 gods and spread the word that we were meant to be doing this for these 3 gods, and that's why we bypassed the curse. Although that display outside was fairly unique. People may not cotton on to what it was, though.
It could only be attributed to the power of a god or 3.
Very true.
Yes, the power of the warrior, the mother, and the scholar. Perhaps that is quite a nice, balanced pantheon.
I agree.
And it might help to deter and persuade.
Well, I would look at you both and say, well, we're speaking of faiths. I could not suffer the cult of Erebel Dark Eyes to thrive in any lands that I ruled.
Can I do a history check to see if I know anything
You don't
about
have to. Lady Erebel Dark Eyes is the more or less the patron goddess. Again, there's no nation directly has one god over the others, but if there were to be a patron god of the Perrin, it is Lady Erebel Dark Eyes, who is the her dogma is tolerance, obedience, and worship. You know what I mean? She is a goddess of strategy and war, law, nobility. But
when he says her name too, he would spit at the ground.
Yep.
It seems appropriate and gives us a lovely reason to keep Perrin out, should we require.
True. There is, however, the martyrs talked about how she wishes to return to many of the Perrin that would worship her, but did not know. We may be able to find deserters in them. It may be a good way to mix up the issue of if they were to invade us or not, if we had people converting to us.
Very well.
I think the idea that they would only be allowed in if they converted may be a good idea.
Those are matters I think you're going to have to deal with in the future. As for the matter of the initial group of people, believe you me, a word of your conquests, of your successes, will travel on the winds to the people of these lands. They'll hear of who you are and where it is you're building your nation, and they'll come. If you build it, they will come.
You were waiting to say that line this entire time, weren't you?
Okay. So, just saw Jake read that and giggle and tickle me. So, what are we thinking? 3 kings, 3 dukes, 3 lords?
I assume I know what a triumvirate... I mean, the Perrin have the triumvirate, don't they?
Correct.
Oh, well, then I would just suggest a triumvirate. We each rule over different sections, we work together.
I agree.
Sorry, just
It wasn't the scratching, it was a fall by.
It was great. It was just like agree. Okay. What I am a loss for is what we do next.
What royal style? Like, what are our titles? Kings, lords, princes.
What would it be, Scott? Because I don't actually know how.
Mechanically, you guys are more or less gonna have to choose 3 positions that you want to take over. One of you would have to choose the position of ruler, which is the charisma-based one. Very likely, one of you would choose the position of high priest, and then there would be a third one. But it doesn't matter what positions for the mechanics of Kingmaker. Kingdom building for Pathfinder.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which you choose. You can now choose your like esoteric like titles, like you're like, oh, where are the 3 divinely selected butt boys? I don't know, like you come up with whatever name that you want, you know. I'd seen because triumvirate is not an option of the Kingdom Building rules. I'd done a lot of like reading of like forums, whatnot. Some people, what they'll do is they'll
The 3 amigos.
they'll just rename those 3 positions to whatever they want. But like the ruler, they'll call speaker, like speaker of the triumvirate, because it's a charisma based one, and like so on. You know what I mean? So you can choose whatever you want. Go ahead.
Well, this is down. I don't personally know what would be a good title for all 3 of us.
I'm down for the 3 kings.
3 kings works for me.
Someone's a little biblical. If you're the 3 kings, I'm Jesus. All right. Where's my fucking gifts? It's my fucking birthday.
You're not like a guiding star, Scott?
No. Now kill me. Kill me so I can have my powers.
Wow.
Oh wow.
I am the goddamn martyr.
So yes, I believe kings would be an appropriate term.
Never thought I'd be a king.
Perhaps. Customarily, there is only one king. However, we will also wish to elevate certain people to the ranks of lords or something similar.
That's what I was thinking. Let me use my magical mind thing to search for other words for king.
Whatever you guys want to name it. That's so he literally, as you guys are sitting there looking stumped, he looks at you guys and he just kind of chuckles a little. You're arguing over what title you want to have when you don't even have a land or subjects. Don't you think there are more important things that we could be discussing right now? You perhaps putting the cart ahead of
a lot of power.
Certainly, but you're putting the cart ahead of the horse.
Well, you kick-started this. Kind of on you.
Let us discuss more important things, like where it is that you're going to settle your lands. And he gestures towards the map that's in front of all of you. Give me 1 second. I want to make this visible for everybody in chat as well. You guys might be on the wrong screens when I switch the map. If that's the case, then I'm just going to adjust it as we go. So I just want to make this visible for... Oh, shit. Fucking roll 20. I alt and then scroll down, and it makes me leave my... It, like, went back.
No spoilers! Ooh.
What do you mean, no spoilers? What are you talking about?
It went back, right? You did what you did last week, right?
Oh, yeah,
Showed
yeah,
all your games.
Yeah, but that's not so bad.
I like how both times I wasn't looking at the
it to the
screen.
highest
It
bidder.
didn't show all. It didn't show all the games. Though. It only showed a little bit or whatever. So hold on, I have to fix this shit. It's annoying. 1 second. Property.
Oh, I forgot that you added the little symbols to what's what.
Okay, and then let's go over to combat. Valorant. Bringing sexy back. Neil. Bump, bump, Sorry, let me just fix this here. Since I can do that now.
Oh, joy, that music just popped into my head and won't go away now.
Well, I'm bringing sexy back. What?
Mhm.
These motherfuckers don't know how to act.
You swore.
What? Yeah, I do all the time.
Yeah, he's allowed to swear now.
He's not. He said that he was going to stick with it.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
He did.
Like you believe that. No.
Josh will go through and find the evidence.
Josh is even here.
Josh is here. Thank you very much.
Josh
He is actually.
Josh is
Look,
here.
look at that.
Josh.
Wow. You going to take that, Josh? You know what would be the great way to get back at him? Go through and find him saying, I'm going to continue not swearing.
Unless he said it in
now
one
you're
of the
trying to
plays.
trick Josh into being your bitch. Josh is smarter than that. He's smarter than to be your bitch.
But he's also petty enough to go do that.
He is petty enough to go do that. That is fucking true. He is. I will give you that. All right, there we go. So you guys are good now. So that way everybody can see it in chat. So my apologies that we have to set my brain back up. We were just saying, what was it again? Where it is that chooses the land. He says, so more or less, he said that there's anywhere that you may. So it's he gestures to the map and says, you may select your kingdom to be anywhere. However, there are certain benefits for selecting certain areas over others. For instance, and he gestures at the map towards the location where you guys are literally currently at, which is right in the keep that you're currently in. And he says, were you to choose this location, you have a keep, something that's already been cleared out. It needs reconstruction. It needs a lot of work to be done. But when it's completed, you would have a full castle here at your disposal so early in your kingdom. That is an incredible thing for you to have. If you were to choose other lands, perhaps you can choose lands that are over near the river, where you have easier access to transportation. Certainly a place where you can fish and gather food for your subjects. There are many different locations that you can choose, each having their own perks and pitfalls. There are even places that you can choose where there's immediately work set before you. For instance, the keep that's far to the east and a bit to the south of where you are now. West, and a bit to the south of where you are now. Should you choose that location, you would certainly have a structure set before you, even if you cannot utilize it fully until you finish clearing it out, but has the opportunity for growth. There is an area where you can choose to claim. However, I believe you had signed a contract. Despite vanishing those creatures of this from this world, the contract is still signed. And were you to go in breach of that contract, I don't fully understand exactly what will happen. I am not a master of devils, but I know that you perhaps fucked yourselves. I don't even know how it is that you'd be able to be clear of that contract. You're going to have to figure that out as time goes. And the last idea that I'll even throw your way is to choose an area that already has a settlement in it. Now, that settlement won't be yours, not unless you can convince the people to make it yours. There are a lot of fruits of choosing an area that already has people there. But it's certainly going to be difficult to sway people that are already in their homes of how many generations that land is now yours and they must pay you tribute to be there, versus convincing others to come to your lands and pay tribute for your protection. You're going to have to decide amongst yourselves where it is that you want it to be. I'll of course give you 72 hours to choose the location, and then we can bring you there if you haven't already found your way to that location, and we'll help establish your kingdom. Again, you have freed me from hundreds of years of slavery and ignorance. You have freed me of that, and for that I am indebted to you. I won't deny that I owe this to you, and so I will deliver it to you.
That wording makes me think Jake might be right. This is out of character. That was just like, oh, Oh no.
One would say to him, who are you?
Nobody anymore.
Who were you?
While I do recall now, it doesn't matter. Perhaps one day we can speak at length of those details, but honestly, it doesn't matter today. Today I have a heavy heart because I realize what it was that I've lost. But I see opportunities set before me as well. The curse has been lifted that has bound me to these keeps, that has kept me somewhere between life and death, and has kept me ignorant for all these centuries. However, there is another curse, similar to that which held the martyr. I am allowed to be corporeal, unlike she was. However, I am still bound to these lands. Maybe one day that curse can be lifted too. Until then, understand that I am invested in these lands, because I have already tried to leave them many times since we've spoken. And I cannot. I am bound here. Some force holds me here.
You keep helping us and maybe we'll help you some more.
And now you understand the nature of our relationship. It's mutually beneficial. Besides, I like you. He doesn't say that with a side eye and a wink at one. He means that the royal you.
Yeah. Admittedly, that does put me at ease to know that it is a mutually beneficial situation, because it means it's. I'm more interested in how this works. What sort of protection would we have in this land that we choose?
Which land are you referring to?
Didn't he say we have to choose an area that he will...
Oh, you're going to have to use your common sense. You're going to have to use logic for what benefits come from where you choose. Choosing a cape that is in the midst of a whole bunch of a vast forest.
Last time he said that we had choose an area and he would essentially... I don't know what the wording was, like help protect it or something.
Oh, you mean like powerful protections. Gotcha. We kind of like are revamping that whole thing, so that wasn't technically said yet.
Oh,
though it's not inaccurate. It's not inaccurate. It just wasn't said yet, so your character doesn't necessarily know that yet. So feel free if you're going to be prodding with a bit of meta knowledge, which is fine because I chose to revamp it a bit because Neil's here. Feel free to phrase a question in such a way to extrapolate that information naturally.
Why specifically do we have 72 hours to choose a location?
Oh, yeah, there you go. I have power. I think you've realized that. However, the power that I have will grow as time goes on, but there's also power that's still left over from before that is waning with each passing breath. I need to utilize that before it is fully left my grasp. I think 72 hours is an appropriate time where I know I'll still have that power without it fully leaving me. Perhaps you have more time after that, but I will state that I don't know the boundaries of this. And I would rather reward you than allow these to be empty words.
So, what are you planning to do with the area that we choose with this power that you speak of?
A foundling nation has struggles. Getting people to give a fuck is one of them. But also, other people can see that you've instituted something and can ride on in on their steeds and take over pretty quickly. Poison in a goblet, a knife to the throat. Whatever it is that might happen, perhaps turning the mobs against you. From the shadows, I will keep an eye on this. For a period of time, I unfortunately can't make that last forever, but for a period of time, I will keep that from happening. I can say it'll be no longer than a year, and probably not even that length. There will be no plots to overthrow you. At least not any that you aren't made fully aware of in advance, or handled before you are even made a concern.
Well then. Do you guys have any ideas about the location?
If you have questions of the merits of each location,
The
I know
current
this-
fort is a good plan. We don't face resistance from any local inhabitants because the local inhabitants are very minimal. There's plentiful wood for building and firewood. The downsides are there's no road and no population.
But it is, however, between two settlements. If we were to make a road, it may encourage travel past.
Making a road is a long and arduous business.
That's for down the line. I didn't mean
Was-
to do that quickly.
Was there no road from this keep in the ages past that may be restored?
When you guys were here beforehand, it's been centuries. Fucking forest took
Okay.
over that shit. You know what I mean?
The other benefit to this keep is that we have our feathered friend that can act as transport to another keep, should we choose to start making progress there as well.
On the other hand, we lend ourselves the greatest legitimacy by taking Held Gwen.
Yes, it would be a much bigger task, but yes.
We'll have to kill the guild.
Simply the leaders would do.
I don't think they have leaders.
They didn't before. They will now.
They might now, yeah. Well, they
It won't happen overnight.
yeah, that implies they would know what's going on.
Yeah.
Leaders naturally form, whether they name them or not.
That's true. We do have the blacksmith in Hardgwen.
She can go wherever, though.
I was about to
She's
say,
vacated to
though I
Rid right
believe-
now. Yeah.
Yeah, though I believe she said she'd be willing to leave if we called.
Unfortunately, as much as I would like to take out Gwen, I believe it's not currently possible. The last
Here's
time
Yeah, sorry.
we were there, we were nearly filled with crossbow bolts. My vote goes to this forest keep. Having a safe place to set up and begin is an excellent start point.
I liked the first keep we came across. However, the location isn't as good as the current one. So if I had to vote, I would say also where we stand.
I believe, actually, Scott, that
Please.
mountain I can see near the first keep that
Please.
we went to.
Mhm. Like I said, you feel
just-
free to ask in game because he literally was saying, if you have questions about the lands, I know them better than.
Well, I would be able to. I ask this better if I had at least a little bit of knowledge. I remember I rolled to find out about the location that this special ore was for the cold steel.
It was there, yeah.
So it was that one.
So you'd be very, very close to a quality mine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Like,
that
you would
is
have
one
to
benefit.
you would have to discover and excavate and
Oh,
so it would take time.
It is
but
a thing.
There is a value. There's a serious value there. Besides that keep, which is not cleared yet, and so you cannot claim that keep yet. However, there is that valley amongst the mountains, which would be a good spot for building on too. So, but it is also more difficult to build through hillock and mountainy area, which I would consider a mountain area. It is more difficult to do that than it is, say, in a forest area, but not impossible. I'm not trying to sway you for or away from that. Please feel free.
However,
Sorry,
if
go
we
on.
take this keep, we know that the eagle is capable of flying here and will eventually
That's
visit
what I was
here.
going to say. Yeah.
Funny thing, the way kingdom building technically works, the mechanics, for you to do expansionist sort of a thing, generally speaking, for the mundane rules to work, the basic rules to work, is your new hex always has to overtake a hex has to be touching a hex that you already have. However, you can create two nations. It's just way more difficult to do. You can create two more independent nations that are separate and eventually meet in the middle. It's just when you take a hex adjacent to yours, it is easier, cheaper, faster, so on and so forth. But if you were to, like, say, build a honeycomb around this keep and then go, before we expand any further, let's now go way the fuck over there. You can do that. It's just more expensive, slower, harder. But you can then build two amazing nations with like a quick little, that's up to you guys. I will not tell you it's a bad idea or a good idea. I will just say it's more difficult, but the fruits can definitely be worth it. Go ahead.
So we've got the Outkeep would definitely be the easiest to start with. It's a matter of whether the difficulties outweigh the benefits of the other locations.
How defensible does this keep look?
I mean,
It's in ruins.
It's in ruins,
Yeah.
but remember the bones.
But once it's
The bones of
once
it are really, really good. So honestly, it would take time to reconstruct this keep, but it will be a full fucking fledged castle. Like it'll be a really good place once it's done. And I don't know if you remember when you walked in, there was like a big grand entrance with like a beautiful stairwell that went upstairs and so on and so forth. It's actually a really nice location. It will look grand, and it's surrounded by forest. So even if you start clearing out an area, even at the edges of your area, there's forest that people have to get through to attack your keep. That's pretty solid. The downside is it's kind of near the edge of Paradel, and people have. Nobody's been here in a long time. So it would be easier for them to kind of like make their way in if you did have to deal with that sort of a threat in the future. But there's forest between you and them. You know what I mean? So defensible, yeah, but not like oh my god, amazing. The other one, defensible, abso-fucking-lutely. It's in mountains, and it's literally built into a mountain. But there's the struggles of building on a mountain, in a mountainside.
Yeah, so we're weighing late game versus early game.
So it's kind of funny. I'm going to send you guys a link, and I'll actually send this inside Twitch chat for everybody to kind of follow along. This link here is actually about terrain improvements for kingdom building. This is part of the mechanics that we were talking about, so a little meta chat here. Choosing an area of like say forest versus mountains has its own intrinsic attributes. So for instance, if you choose forest, where are you? Special terrain. So forest does not have anything intrinsic built towards it, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So forest is like a little. Those exploration and preparation times are a little bit different because I do hexes different than the base rules. I do 16 miles instead of 12. Remember, but so forest is a little bit quicker to explore and to prepare, and cheaper to explore and prepare. And roads are cheaper and stuff like that. So again, early game, it's easier for you. There's no question. You don't even know how much BP you have, so don't worry about that yet. But there's no like immediate benefits of that area. Forest is actually really bad for making farmlands. Like farm costs, there isn't one.
Because you have to clear it.
You have to like
That's
hard
a good
clear
point.
it. You have to burn forests to the ground. It's not even like a simple preparation. You have to clear it into
Do you get
plants.
any benefit for that afterwards, however? Because if you're burning tree stumps, etc., to generate farmland, your farmland would be more fertile.
Correct. So what I would do, even though there's no mechanics for it, when you eventually turn it into farmland, I would actually decrease because the farmland's more fertile, but only for a short period of time. I would say for the next, say, like 3 turns or 6 turns, somewhere in there, we'll roll for it. We will. I'll say that it reduces your consumption by 2 for a period of time, which is awesome. That's actually a really, really good thing. But again, it takes more time, blah, blah, blah. Pushing that aside. When you're building into the mountains, assuming the mountains have things that can be quarried or mined, you immediately, we can build mines and quarries there. We can actually increase all that stuff, and it increases your defensible positions. You know what I mean? Like, there's I'm trying to find the actual mechanic for it, but you actually have a heightened defense by building in mountains because it's harder for people to get to. So forest is just like Tesh said earlier, easier, and it's easier for the early game. Your life is going to be that much easier. For the late game, mines are way better. So you will inevitably have both of them, unless you die. So, and just to be clear, I just want to be super clear, because you are not locked between these two. You can literally choose any hex on the map, though choosing something like Hod Gwen would probably be like the worst idea. You can literally choose any hex on the map You just like the idea of working with these two because you're so invested in them, correct?
What about taking Reed, the hex that has Reed in it? We have a direct travel and river access to Hald Gwen. We're not far away from the fort for when we do it up, because having a defensible position in the center of the country would be good. We're near forest, near water, near clear land for farming.
You could, in theory, take
And
Reed.
the people of Reed are docile.
I was going to say they're super docile, correct? You are, or docile. Sorry, I said it your way. Docile, correct. But but hold on, real quick. You guys believe they're docile because of some sort of magical thing affecting them. You think it's like a curse like that affecting them?
It's maybe gone, but it'll fade slowly. By the time that they're back to normal, they'll be used to us being there.
It's up. I'm not saying that
No,
that
no,
was
no,
a
no, no.
fact. I'm just making sure you remember.
So what you're suggesting is like we start in this tile
Yep.
and then expand this way.
Or the other way, or a little bit both sides, because you see there's pristine farmland east and north of Haldgwen.
That's a good point. Yeah.
East of Reed and north of Haldgwen. That's pristine farmland there.
There's also
Reed
there's
has
also,
farmland there, right?
not in its hex, but there's a hex on the other side that does have
Okay,
farmland.
because I remember when we were walking in, we were passed through a bunch of farmland.
Oh yeah. They have farms enough for their own people, yeah. But it is not like, oh, this is a farming place. More or less, any area that has like more than one tree in it, it should be considered like that, almost foresty. It's not quite forest. It's not quite plains. It's kind of between those two. But anything that has nothing in it is definitely plains. Definitely easy to this, that, and the other thing. So, also rivers do increase like fishing and stuff like that as well. So, but. Again, I know you. I just wanted to make sure that you remembered your options. So if I were to guess, immediately in your minds, and we're going to continue hashing, which I have no problem if we hash for forever. Option A in your minds is this keep. Option B in your minds is the other keep that has like the ore and whatnot. And option C in your mind is Rid.
Option A in my mind is Reed. I think it's the best.
Really?
And then B, yeah,
Okay.
hands down.
One would vote for the current keep. That would be my vote. So what is Valorant thinking?
Let me just look at some of the lands. The issue with Reed is I'm worried about, as he was saying, the people there already and magic. We don't
There
know.
are fewer people, yes. There are people there, yes. But there are significantly more people than at the fort and significantly less than at Hald Gwen. This means we would effectively have an easy workforce should we pay them at the beginning. Eventually, they will accept their role. What I am hoping is that the magic that keeps them docile and whatnot will fade over time slowly, at which point they will be used to us and already seeing the benefits of our constructive rule. More travel, more money, more gold.
One issue that is there is, what if the magic that is causing them to be docile is not part of the curse and it's something else?
One would turn to the old man and ask him directly. He'd say, do you know anything about the magics hanging over Reed?
All right, we have
he
Wikipedia
says-
here.
He says, okay, good, cool. I was actually, he can interject here. Thank you, Jake. He says, if there are magics over that are affecting the people there, I'm not aware of them, but understands that my knowledge of the land is of the land itself, but not necessarily of everything that is happening on the land. I'm not omnipotent or omniscient by any stretch of the imagination. I can, however, tell you if your concern is of people, as I said, word will travel on the wind, and people will come. There's no doubt of that. This is one of the reasons why I've put a bit of a time limit on it. People will come to you. That'll definitely happen, because your deeds are not small. And so whether if you're taking a land that already has people there and tell them that you're their new ruler, perhaps they're docile and they'll listen to you, or perhaps you've excavated an old keep that has within it riches, and so you're offering this, that, the other thing. People of interest will come this way. I believe even you found somebody within this keep who has a bit of an interest in it. I believe he himself would be interested in coming back this way. And you can actually see that, what's his name, Elliot, is kind of like, he gets a little bit of a half smile and nods, as he remembers fondly Kithul. He actually likes Kithul.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a good point. my new idea out of character is if we do start here and we work our way towards this keep, it would be much easier to control, say, like this area than it would be to try and like cut out a thing. We would have essentially one border on the side rather than many like a sort of like incropping in the middle sort of thing.
Right, but like these hexes here won't net us anything particularly good on you until we hit like the fertile
The river, yeah.
river and plain.
Just to understand the cost of doing things. So I have in here for you guys under Kingdom Rules. You should be able to see everything. There's exploration and travel of a deer. I actually made this map this out so it's easier for you guys moving forward. Based off party speed, because I changed it because my hexes are 16 miles, not 12. So exploring those areas, so like forest, where you base speed 30, right? It takes 3 days to explore an area, right? And then to clear it out for the sake of preparation. So where are we? This is considered forest. Preparation time is going to be about 2 months to prepare. Wait, sorry. To claim a hex, all you have to do is explore it and then pay a BP to send people in to claim it. And now it's under your rule, so on and so forth. That's done once a month. You can claim a hex. Okay, so every month you can claim one hex early in the campaign. You don't have to prepare it. So if you're looking at that link that I sent you beforehand, you don't have to prepare a hex. Preparation is only for building settlements there. Okay, so you can own tons of hexes that don't have settlements. People can live on your lands. Settlements is like a whole different mechanic that we don't have to worry about right now. Okay. So, hold on 1 second. So yep. You could, in theory, Neil, to point at those two areas that you were talking about, you could have those two hexes straight up to the river in literally 2 months' time. Because you're going to start off with this hex right here. Then month 2, you would take, say, this hex right here. And month 3, you would grab either this hex or this hex.
Mm-hmm.
So one would bring up as well of why we should start at the keep is because we don't know what's going to happen to the river and the water after we dumped that stuff in. And maybe, like waiting a little while to figure out if there is any adverse effects.
We would be upstream of that. So it seems quite unlikely that whatever that would be the problem would flow up to us.
It was also alive, so...
If there was an issue as well that affected the water supply in Held Gwen, it goes without saying that people might move to avoid it.
Yes. I still think it would be better to start with the keep, because if we make our way and then... Well, basically, if we get to a point where we can control Loshev, that opens up a lot. We would be able to actually start working on eventually moving over to take the other keep.
You never actually traveled through Loshev, did you?
No. I don't believe so.
Cool.
We have no idea what Loshev is like. At least in Reed, the people know us there. However, vaguely, we were pleasant while we were there.
I'm just worried about how easy it will be to keep Reed in the long term with where it is in Adir.
Could you guys do me a favor?
What do you mean, keep Reed?
For assuming you have some degree of decision in your minds, /GM space, then write 1, your first decision, 2, your second decision, 3, your third decision. I assume the 3 decisions are Forest Keep, Mountain Keep, and Rid. So send those to me so I can at least see them for a second.
Unrecognized.
Sorry, what was it again?
/GM, is it, or is it? Hey, how do you GM whisper in Roll20? Isn't there a way to? There's a way to whisper to GM. Oh, god damn it! Roll20 whisper GM. It's usually /GM. Text chat. Whispering. So sorry, guys. Whispers. You can.
We just send it to you in Discord?
You can do Discord. /W space GM space. There you go. That's how you do it.
/W space GM space.
There you go. My apologies, guys. There you go.
That seems to have worked.
Yep. I can see 2 of them.
Oh.
I found it. I just have to Google it real quick because it's been a while. I'm just waiting for Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting mine now.
Yeah, so meta-wise, I do think it would be a much better idea to start at this keep. Even if it's a bit more work later on, it'll give us a really solid start, which we can build off of.
Which keep, sorry?
Oh, the one we're at, the forest keep. Because as I said, the idea of trying to take this area and controlling it, we can't go here, so we can't. So we have a boundary here,
Mm-mm.
and then we'd be trying to cut off this entire like section in one go, rather than trying to sort of cut it down here.
In character, Rayron would chide you for thinking too small.
For the beginning, it's much better to start with a side and move across than start in the middle and move out.
I would disagree. The chances of the outside being taken by extraneous forces are far greater than the center of Idir. Not to mention that by being in the center of Idir, you place yourself quite literally in the seat of power. The symbolism might not be exactly noticed, but you are in the center of Idir.
Good point. Oh,
Okay, so he says, all of a sudden he chimes in, he says, it seems like you more or less have your minds made up as to which is the primary of the 3 options you seem to be discussing. But that doesn't matter right now. I have other things that I need to tend to, and you have a time limit for when it is that I'm going to be able to aid you. My suggestion would be this. It takes time to learn land for you to claim it. Since all of you seem to be at least a degree interested in the land you currently stand in, and you don't have to go anywhere as of this moment, perhaps you should spend that time exploring this land. At least then you'll get a better understanding as to what it's like.
that's actually not a bad idea. We have an idea of what's around Reed, but we don't really have much of an idea of what's around here. Might be worth seeing if there's something worth it here. If not, then we know Reed has that land developed.
Very well, let's have a look round. I'm sure we'll enjoy trudging through all the vines.
With that, he says, I certainly hope that you come to a decision, and I certainly hope that you're all happy with that decision. You do not want to enter into a marriage disliking one another, do you? And he says that kind of like chuckling to himself as he literally steps back, seeming to fade. Like, because remember how he originally kind of like faded into view? He steps and fades out.
What was your name?
He had already told you beforehand. It doesn't matter. He's nobody right now.
Dave.
Can you appear anywhere now?
He already faded.
Yeah, no,
Right.
he's just trying anyway.
Useless, really. You can't find any young old men anymore.
So at this point, obviously, you got your characters can hash amongst each other, so on and so forth. But we're gonna put that aside for now. Why don't we actually take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're gonna start talking about the actual mechanics of building this kingdom, and then we're gonna get back into which location you choose based off some of the mechanics that we're all gonna learn together. Okay? Awesome. So everybody will take a quick break. We'll come back shortly, and we'll see how things play out. So, Pee-poo, do you gotta do? Bye.